This Shabbat's Torah portion, Shlach Lecha, finds the people of Israel right on the cusp of the Promised Land. It's only been about 2 years since the Exodus from Egypt, and the Israelites have been very busy. They received the Torah at Mount Sinai, they built the Mishkan, they've established priestly rituals, and they've begun to build their society as a free people. Now, they've made it. They're poised on the border, and God instructs Moses to send a party of 12 scouts to survey the land that they have been promised before the entire community follows. After the 12 scouts return from exploring the land of Israel, 10 of them deliver this terrifying report. The land that we traveled through and scouted is a land that devours its inhabitants. All the people that we saw in it are of astonishingly great size. We saw giants there, and we look like grasshoppers to ourselves, and so we must have looked to them. Upon hearing this, the Israelites are beside themselves. They wail that they would have been better off dying in slavery in Egypt than facing the frights of the Promised Land. 2 of the scouts, Caleb and Joshua, try to convince the people that the land is an exceedingly good land, but their cries continue. It turns out that this is the final straw for God after several episodes of complaints by the Israelites in the wilderness. God declares, "None of these people shall see the land that I promised their ancestors." As a result, they will wander in the desert for 38 more years, and only Caleb, Joshua, and those born in the wilderness will enter the Promised Land. What should have been the first generation to live in Israel, the generation that was freed from Egypt to inherit the land, instead becomes the generation of the desert, the in-between generation. The story that has guided the Israelites up until this moment has changed in an instant. Their future, which was once so clearly laid out before them, is suddenly murky and unrecognizable. Over these past 8 days, we have acutely felt the pain of the generation of the desert. We suddenly find ourselves once again in a new reality, a new in-between. We watch as a terrifying war unfolds between Israel and Iran with no clear end or obvious outcome in sight. 4 of us on the Emanu-El clergy team, along with hundreds of rabbis and tens of thousands of students and participants across many programs, were also right on the cusp of Israel until the war made it impossible to travel there. Personally, I've not been able to tear myself away from my phone, constantly refreshing the New York Times live coverage and waiting breathlessly for updates from American friends trying to get out of Israel and from Israeli friends trying to get back in. None of us can predict how this story will continue to unfold. In this in-between, the dominant emotion that I am feeling is fear. And I know that so many of us have felt that fear as well. Fear is powerful, and fear can be paralyzing. Fear is what ultimately drives the upheaval of the Israelites' story, condemning them to wander in the desert instead of entering the land. A midrash tells us that God's punishment hinges on the scouts' report of the giants that they encounter. They said, "And we looked like grasshoppers to ourselves." God said, "I forgave them for that remark, but I lost my temper when they said, 'And so we must have looked to them.' Who is to say that you did not look like angels to them? How can you know how you appeared in their eyes? It's okay to be afraid, God tells the Israelites. It is natural and human to have fear. But the Israelites let the fear cloud their vision until it is all that they can see, and leaving no room for hope. The tragedy of the story is that while the Israelites saw themselves as grasshoppers in comparison to the giants of the land, it is actually quite possible that the giants did see them as angels. For the generation of the desert is remembered in Jewish legend as a generation of giants. As the legend is told in the Talmud, more than 1,000 years after the Exodus from Egypt, an Arab traveler said to a rabbi, "Come with me, and I'll show you the desert dead." The rabbi got up and went with him. They traveled deep into the desert, and there they saw the corpses of the whole generation of the desert. The ancient Israelites lay on their backs, frozen, their faces with expressions of ecstasy. We are told that they were giants, as large as enormous statues, so huge that the Arab traveler could ride on his camel under the bent knee of one with his lance raised in the air and still not touch the underside of the giant's knee. The generation of the desert saw themselves as grasshoppers, but they lived on in legends as giants. Right now, we too might see ourselves as grasshoppers. And it's okay to be scared. It's okay to be terrified, but we cannot abandon our hope. Like the in-between generation, we are stronger than we think we are. And who are we to say that we are not like angels in others' eyes? These past 8 days, there's been an enormous amount of fear. But I've also seen smiling selfies of friends in bomb shelters across Israel. I've read how, in very true Israeli fashion, Tel Aviv residents have gone straight from sheltering in safe rooms to sunbathing on the beach upon hearing the all clear. I've heard from an Iranian friend, a first-generation American, whose parents are feeling anxiety and grief over the bloodshed and destruction of their homeland. But their emotions are also mixed with glimmers of hope that they might once again see a safe and free Iran, the Iran of their childhoods. We don't know how long this moment will last. We don't know how the story will unfold from here, or if we will see lasting peace in our lifetimes. Right now, the end of the story is not what matters, because that is not the lesson of the in-between generation. The lesson they teach us is that even at their lowest moments, when they feel the smallest, they do not stop walking. The generation of the desert will not enter the promised land, but they do raise the children who will. They do not abandon the story. I want to close with the words of Torah that Rabbi Tali Adler shared this week. This is the path of the wilderness that our ancestors bequeathed us. It is a path of faith that says, I will not pretend that the world has not changed, but I will also not say that that change means the story is over. It is a path for those who say the story may be longer and more complicated and sometimes more beautiful and sometimes more tragic than I ever imagined. And I do not know if I will live to see how the story ends. And still I walk forward in the desert and teach it to my children. And somehow, step after step and word after word, together we will create a world where the story's promise is true. Ken Yehi Ratzon, may it be so. Shabbat Shalom.